puede, sí se puede, sí se puede, sí se puede. Good afternoon. My name is Rob Notoff. I'm the Policy Director with the Los Angeles County Federation of Labor, and I am proud to be standing in solidarity with folks from all across the state in support of this critical warehousing bill, AB 701. Needless to say, 2020 was a devastating year for most of us. This pandemic has ripped apart our social fabric, prematurely took some dear friends and loved ones from us, and it has preyed upon our working class communities of color. But ironically enough, this pandemic was a boon for a select few of us. While many of us have struggled during the COVID-19 pandemic, giants like Amazon and Walmart have made and continue to make record profits. For example, Amazon's earnings report for the fourth quarter of 2020 was the highest ever on record for that company. And let's be clear, these warehousing giants are generating these record-setting profits off of the backs of their workers. Workers are not sharing in the company's success, nor seeing increased pay or improved safety conditions. In fact, rather than receiving fair pay, warehouse workers are instead paying the price with their bodies and their health. The only increase that workers are seeing is an increase in injuries. I think it's safe to say that these warehouses have become injury mills, and the turnover rate in these factories is over 100%, meaning if you were to go in there today and speak to a worker, chances are that worker will not be there 1 year from today. And the reason why is because warehouse workers are reported having to scan up to 400 packages in a single hour, with every movement tracked to the point where they can be penalized for simply using the bathroom. These dangerous quotas and time pressures have led to debilitating injuries, like to workers' backs, their limbs, their joints, and their mental health. And the COVID-19 pandemic has only worsened these conditions as the demand for online retailing has increased. So are we going to stand for that?
No!
Oh, I thought we were louder than that. Are we going to stand for that?
No!
Hell no, we're not going to stand for that. The cost of free overnight shipping is too much for these workers. The workers who paved the way for these mind-blowing profits deserve to be protected, and the concept is simple. Work shouldn't hurt. But enough from me. It's time to introduce the real experts, beginning with the fierce champion of workers' rights, representing the 80th Assembly District down in San Diego, in America's finest city. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Assemblywoman Lorena Gonzalez.
What do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! Now!
I'm excited to be here because throughout this pandemic, we've worried about workers. And we know that people's impatience, their desire to get whatever they need right now and for free, doesn't come at no cost. The problem is the cost is being borne by workers we don't even see. It's the workers in the warehouse, at Amazon in particular, where they're 3 times more likely to suffer an injury than in any other job. And it's not just because it's a warehouse. Warehouse work is hard, but we know it can also be safe. But Amazon workers are 2 times more likely to suffer injury on the job than other similarly situated warehouse workers. Something is wrong here, and we think we know what that is. There is this desire for a work quota, a pace that is not achievable, and a threat of losing one's job or being retaliated against for not being able to make that quota, for doing things like having to stop to get water or clean their hands or go to the restroom. They can't meet a quota that has been artificially set not by human beings but by computers. This is inhumane. And it would be inhumane for us to not do something about it. Yes, it's a kind of new model of work, although we've seen this before. But in this new model of work, workers should have the right to know what the expectations are for their work product, how quick the pace has to be. This bill would require that. They have the right to know if that quota changes. We've heard from Amazon workers that on holidays, on Amazon days, that quota may go up. They may be required to do even more than normal. They should be able to have that in writing so that they know what they're expected to do and what the consequence would be. And we're asking finally for there to be labor standards, for there to be Cal OSHA standards on what is too fast, what expectations are too much, and for these companies to be held liable to keep it healthy and safe for their workers. We want to make sure that workers aren't retaliated against because they assert their rights to not be fired by a quota they didn't even know existed. These are all things we're going to have to live with in this economy. But that doesn't mean we live with it without rules, especially health and safety rules. Often you think of the union and you think of pay, right? I mean, that's usually why we're out here. I got to be honest, or usually why people think we're out here. But I'll tell you, there's a lot of workers who have lost their limbs, who have lost the ability to move, their ability to work somewhere else, and that is just as important, if not more important sometimes, in the pay scale. That's what we're talking about here. Amazon has become even wealthier during this pandemic, but they have not shared in that wealth to provide protections for their own workers. If they're not willing to, then we will force them to do so. It's time that we value workers enough to say you don't deserve to lose your livelihood or to lose your body on a job and to be continually pushed by artificial intelligence really telling you to go faster and faster and faster. So what we're going to do today is we're going to see exactly what happens in not exactly a smaller scale in an Amazon warehouse and see why it's so important for the future of these workers to provide clear rules, to provide them with protections, and to make sure they have the ability to empower themselves against an abusive employer. Thank you.
Your greedy side. So our next speaker is the proud Assembly member representing the 27th District in San Jose. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Assemblyman Ash Kalra.
All right, Ash!
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. It's great to be here with the House of Labor and with those that care about workers. I'm very proud to chair the Assembly Labor Committee and, more importantly, stand with colleagues that are always standing with workers. As we heard from our courageous colleague, Assemblymember Gonzalez, it's not just about money. This is about dignity. This is about actually going to a job and knowing that you're going to be taken care of. No matter how hard you work, no matter how much you commit to that company does have an obligation to make sure that they're taking care of you. And right now what we have a playing field that is completely imbalanced in so many ways, including money, including resources, including making sure that those that are allowing these companies to profit are getting something back for that work. But most significantly, and the reason why we're all here today, is that what's happening right now in our warehouses is absolutely unacceptable. In one of the wealthiest states, the wealthiest state in the wealthiest country on earth, we have to demand better. We have to demand better of all of our companies. We have to demand better of those that are putting our workers' health and life in jeopardy for their profit. And so I'm just honored to be here today standing with the workers, because the workers cannot and must not stand alone. They cannot fight this fight alone. All of us as Californians must stand with them. All of us must tell Amazon and the others that have warehouses, although we know what the conditions are in these Amazon warehouses, as Amazon is making unseemly amounts of profit during the course of this pandemic. And yet they still push back against workers. And workers, again, not asking, we want more money, we want this, just asking for safe working conditions, asking for some dignity as they're working their butts off for this company. And so together I stand in solidarity with the workers. I stand in solidarity with my colleagues who are here with us. I stand in solidarity with labor to make it very clear that in this state, we're going to stand up for the workers. In this state, I don't care how big of a company you are, how much money you have, you're the wealthiest person on the face of the earth. We're still going to stand with the workers to make sure that you hold up your responsibility to give workers a place to work with dignity and with standards that we all can be proud of. So thank you so much for being here and standing with the workers. And I want to thank once again the California Labor Federation, LA Labor Fed, for bringing us together to make sure that we understand what the conditions are like. Again, a very small sample in a very small manner, but get a sense of what these workers are being put through every single day for all of us. So thank you.
Now. So our next speaker represents the 24th Senate District in California and is the chair of the Latino Caucus. Please welcome Senator Maria Elena Durazo.
Thank you, Bob. Yes, I am here, and I'm so proud to be with all of my colleagues in the legislature. Proud to be here with warehouse workers, and I'm proud to be here with labor, with organized labor. Say it loud. I'm with a union. I'm with the Teamsters. I'm with the LA Fed, just like all of my colleagues here, because we know who represents workers. We know who fights on the side of workers. You know, the warehouse workers come from the very same communities that were hardest hit during COVID-19. Hardest hit when it came to their health, hardest hit when it came to the economy. The workplace conditions are totally connected to the communities where they live. Warehouse workers in California are 54% Latino and 10% Black. They struggled with the lack of access to health. They are unable to quarantine like other working men and women, and eventually disproportionately had the most positive cases and deaths from COVID-19. In every adult age category, Latinos died at significantly higher rates than anyone else. So what happens in those conditions? Workers see no other option. They feel they must accept unsafe conditions to keep a roof over their head. And a big reason for these disparities is the lack of protections workers face in these work settings like the retail warehouses. OSHA did, during inspections that an OSHA medical inspector did for the last several years, found that on-site clinics by Amazon at its warehouses would send the workers back to work instead of referring them to another clinic for proper medical attention. They discouraged workers from reporting injuries, and they discouraged workers from seeking outside medical attention. That's how Amazon dealt with the working conditions and the health and safety of its employees. So this bill, I'm really proud to be here with my sister who's presenting it, will directly help to reduce injuries and improve the safety in the warehouses. We're going to protect frontline workers by requiring employers to disclose those quotas and the pace of work standards to workers and to state enforcement agencies. So I thank my sister for doing this. California must demand better for these highly profitable companies making money off of workers, off of men and women, off of Californians for, at their cost of their injuries is wrong. So we're going to step up and we're demanding health and safety in all of these workplaces. Gracias.
So do we have anybody from the Inland Empire here today? Right on. So our next speaker represents the 47th Assembly District here in California, the Inland Empire. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Assembly Member Eloise Reyes.
much. Thank you so much. First, I want to welcome those who are from the Inland Empire. We are known as the warehouse capital of the state. I'm not happy about that. I'm not happy because they're not treating the workers the way they should be treated. I sincerely appreciate Assemblymember Gonzalez for bringing this matter before us, and I appreciate the Labor Federation for bringing us together today. I also want to thank all of you who are present here for your support of warehouse workers. I proudly represent the 47th Assembly District in the Inland Empire. Now, we've heard time and time again of the inhumane working conditions some warehouse workers must endure when trying to provide for themselves and for their families. Most recently, we've learned that working conditions at Amazon's warehouse are so strenuous that workers often go without bathroom breaks just to meet their high productivity quotas. We've also learned of corporations interfering with workers' rights to unionize by intimidating workers to discourage them from advocating for themselves. It's time we say enough. It's time to pass sound and reasonable worker rights legislation. I sit on the Assembly Committee on Labor and Employment with my chair, Assemblymember Ash Kalra. And in this committee, we're seeing the bills that my colleagues are putting together before us. I am reassured of California's efforts to protect and uplift workers. I look forward to working with community members and my colleagues to create a more just and equitable workplace for not only warehouse employees, but all employees. Thank you so much, and thank you to my colleagues for fighting for our warehouse workers. Thank you.
What do we want? Justice.
Where do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Justice.
Where do we want it?
Now.
So as we conclude the comments from the Majority Leader of the Assembly, and we wrap up the other speeches from the electeds, I do want to also acknowledge some of the other worker champions who are standing in this crowd with us here today. I'd like to honor and appreciate Senator Connie Leyva, Senator Stephen Bradford, Senator Lena Gonzalez, my representative, Assemblyman Reggie Jones Sawyer, Assemblywoman Wendy Carrillo, and Assemblywoman Luz Rivas. And so our next speaker is with Courage California. I'd like to welcome Angela Chavez to tell us why they care.
Hello, thank you guys for joining us. I want to start by saying, Courage California, we were invited to come here, last minute, and the key part of our name is courage. And we're here today in this lovely California to demand courage, not just of our electeds, but of our community organizers, of the people, to demand better of Amazon. And it shouldn't take courage to ask for workers to have safe working conditions. But yet, it does require courage, because we were here before. We were here last year. There's always a fight, and there's always a requirement of courage to ask the largest employers to take care of its workers, to stop exploiting people, to stop exploiting communities. It is insane that courage is required to protect our workers, to protect our communities, our most disadvantaged communities often. That is insane to me, but we're here to support AB 701. In the pandemic, we've seen headline after headline come out about Amazon. And every time Amazon, it's not true. But unfortunately, every time it proves to be true. And the headlines have only worsened. Last year, during the pandemic, Courage California started a Blackout Bezos campaign. It was merely focused on holiday shopping, Black Friday, we're gonna black out Bezos. Because these workers are already overworked. They're already in horrible working conditions. and then add the pandemic on top of that, and then add Amazon Prime Days and Black Friday on top of that, we knew these workers were not being treated right. So we did a Blackout Bezos campaign. We did Prime Day in October. We did Black Friday in November. And just with that, those little emails that we sent, we got petitions signed. Nearly 25,000 Californians signed that petition to Blackout Bezos. And it wasn't just the petitions that were signed. We got emails back from Californians, workers, people who said, you know what, it's about time. It's about time someone had courage to stand up to Amazon. It's about time. This is what they have done to me, my family, my communities. And then there's people that reached out and they're like, you know what? We canceled our Prime years ago because we know how horrible Amazon is. And we're so proud you guys are bringing light to this. And I'm so proud to be in California. I'm so proud of our legislative leaders who are taking this head on. But they can't do it by themselves. They need our other representatives to step up and also have courage. They need us, the people, to step up and demand that our legislators represent the people and not corporations. So it is up to us to see this legislation through. And that is why Courage California is happy to be here to support AB 701 and support California workers, because Californians deserve better. Thank you.
What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now.
So our next speaker is the Executive Director of the Notorious Warehouse Workers Resource Center. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Cesar Castro.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks for having me. Cesar Castro with the Warehouse Worker Resource Center. I'm here to speak to the impacts of this bill and potential impacts of this bill for our communities in the Inland Empire. Amazon is the biggest private employer in the Inland Empire now, and by some measures the biggest in California. Over the last few years, what we've seen is that Amazon and other warehousing has been dominant in our region, and what I want to talk about is how that's impacted our community. When you have a high pace of work in an Amazon facility, in the facilities of the biggest employer in your region, what that leads to is workers working very fast, of course. What that leads to is very high turnover. So a lot of people who come in saying, oh, there's all these jobs at Amazon, they're not able to hang on because the conditions are so fast and so difficult. It also leads to very high injury rates. What we've seen is in one facility in Eastvale, 17 out of 100 workers are injured in a given year in 2019. That is well above the average rate of about 4.4 in warehousing, even above the rate that Amazon averages across California. That is a huge number of our community members, especially because Amazon hires very young people who are coming out of those facilities injured, sometimes for life. That has a huge impact on our communities, on our health system, but also, of course, on our families. That's something that we can't accept, especially when we know that these companies are making billions and trillions of dollars. Some basic data about the sector. There's estimated about 500,000 people in California who work in warehousing. Over 43% of the goods coming into the United States come in through Southern California. So about half of the goods coming to the country come in through Southern California, about about $500 billion worth of goods. So it's a huge amount of profit that these companies are making off of the backs of our communities. Now as turnover rates are soaring, as injury rates are getting higher, we're seeing that the monitoring algorithmic management of workers that is being pioneered by Amazon is creating even higher injury rates, but also starting to be adopted by other companies that want to be able to keep up. So now Walmart and Amazon, as the two biggest employers in our state, are the ones who are setting the standards. I don't think that's appropriate for our state, and I don't think that's something that we should just let happen. Over the last couple of years, we've done a lot of research. We've partnered with an organization called Human Impact Partners to research the physical and psychological impacts of working in an Amazon facility. What we saw was shocking. The surveillance and technological tracking has led to, among the workers that we talked to last year in Amazon warehouses, the majority of those dealt with and experienced physical exhaustion, psychological anxiety, weight loss or gain, trouble sleeping, headaches, and musculoskeletal issues. So both physical and psychological impacts come out of this work, and you'll see in a few minutes what it looks like inside of those facilities. But remember, not just the physical impacts, but being watched at all times, being monitored at all times, getting an email the next day and being told, I saw that you slowed down, I saw that you were off task for a minute, so I'm going to write you up, getting that from a machine. That's the level of surveillance that's the level of surveillance that these workers are dealing with, and it has impacts not just in terms of how you work physically, but also in terms of how you work mentally. AB 701 would begin the process to return these warehouse jobs to the conditions that it used to be. You used to be able to sustain a family and have a long-term career in warehousing, thanks to organizations like the Teamsters. We want to return this sector, which is growing so quickly, to a kind of situation where you can raise a family, a middle-class jobs in our communities, especially communities like the Central Valley and the Inland Empire, where we need these jobs desperately to become better jobs. So we thank you all for your support. We thank all the legislators for introducing and moving this bill, and good luck to all of you. Thank you.
So our next speaker is Jason Rabinowitz, the Secretary-Treasurer of Teamsters 2010, and also a trustee with the Teamsters Joint Council 7.
All right. Good afternoon. We have Teamsters in the house? Yeah. We have labor in the house? Yeah. I'm glad to be here with everybody. My name's Jason Rabinowitz. I'm Secretary-Treasurer, Teamsters Local 2010 here in California, and I'm also a trustee for Joint Council 7 of the Teamsters, covering workers in Northern California and Northern Nevada for the Teamsters. And the Teamsters Union is proud to stand today. We're 250,000 workers here in California, 1.4 million workers across the United States, Canada, and Puerto Rico. We're very happy to be here and proud to stand with all working people, including the Amazon workers, Walmart workers, and all the warehouse workers who are fighting every day for a safe workplace and dignity on the job. So we've been hearing for months and really for years about the horrendous conditions that we have in many of these non-union Amazon and other non-union companies' warehouses, like the one in Bessemer, Alabama, which has been in the news lately. And we've seen that these warehouses are an example of the dystopian, inhumane future for workers that these non-union companies like Amazon have. Their vision of the future is a workplace where workers have no rights, no safety, where there's unsafe quotas, denial of rest and bathroom breaks, constant surveillance, and discipline by algorithms. In the non-union workplace, we know that workers have no voice, have no seat at the table, and all the rules are made by the boss. Now, take a look at Amazon. Do you think that Amazon can't afford to have safe working conditions and dignity on the job for workers? What do you think? Are they broke? Is Amazon broke? Has anyone looked at Jeff Bezos lately? The man's about to be a trillionaire. Now just think about that, a trillionaire. And meantime, they can't even give safe working conditions for their people that are making their warehouses run. They can't even pay decent wages and benefits. Is it because they can't afford it? No, they can afford it. They just don't have to because there's no union. And we don't have adequate state laws yet. And that's why we're here today. And without a union, the boss makes all the rules. They don't have to pay fairly. They don't have to abide by safety, give people dignity on the job. But it doesn't have to be this way. Because in the Teamsters Union and with all unions, when we have a union, when we stand together, we have some bargaining power. We have some voice in our future. We get to sit down at the table and bargain collectively and have a voice at work. And that's a freedom that every worker should enjoy in our country. Is that right? Right. Yeah. And so in Teamsters, Joint Council 7 and Joint Council 42, our members across the state have a union contract. We have a say in our future, and we do the backbreaking labor that keeps America moving, and especially during this pandemic, our members have put our lives, our safety on the line to keep this economy moving, to keep the
stores stocked with food and goods on the shelves. And while we do that, we stand together in our union so that we have some decent treatment, so that we have some safety. The pace of our work is determined by scientific studies, not imposed by unfeeling algorithms and bosses who have no care for the workers, only for profit. So we have a say in our working conditions. We can't be fired for reporting injuries or speaking out about unsafe working conditions. So now we're here today because until all workers have a voice on the job, we need to strengthen state laws to help protect workers from life-altering injuries and unfair retaliation for speaking out. That's why we thank our Teamster sister, Elena Gonzalez, who's a champion on this and so many other issues. And AB 701 would give all warehouse workers basic rights around understanding quotas, complying with health and safety standards, and protecting workers from inherently unsafe work speeds. We don't have to accept a future for workers that non-union companies envision. This future where we have no say, no safety, where workers are expendable, where you could get sick or get hurt or drop dead and they don't care. They'll just throw you out and get a new one. We are human beings. Workers have dignity. Workers should have rights on the job, and that's why we stand together in our union. So the Teamsters Union is committed to a higher standard for all working people. AB 701 is a great first step. We thank our brother Ron Herrera and the LA Federation of Labor for pulling this together today. We thank all the legislators who are standing in support of working people. We thank all of you for being here. Let's get AB 701 passed. Let's fight for fairness and safety for all working people. Thank you.
So we've heard about some tough conditions that warehouse workers are facing, but what could a real high road industry look like, and what does it look like when it can be an actual just workplace? So to tell us what that looks like, I'd like to welcome Cesar Castro up here to tell us, a UPS worker, in terms of the conditions that they deal with. And then speaking immediately after him will be a person who needs little to no introduction. He's a Western Region Vice President for the International Brotherhood of Teamsters Western Region. He's the president of the Los Angeles County Federation of Labor, and he's the secretary-treasurer of Teamsters Local 396, Ron Herrera. So I'd like to bring Cesar and Ron Herrera to the mic together. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cesar Castro, and I have been working at UPS for 7 years. I work inside small sort within our facility, and within inside small sort, we handle packages that weigh no more than 10 pounds. And when I'm at work, the most important thing to me is safety. Safety is really important to my coworkers as well. We are constantly reminding ourselves and constantly reminding each other that we need to work safe. We go to work to get a paycheck to provide for our family, but the most important thing to me is that I come home to my family safe and without injury. We're always reminded that our most important stop is the day is making it home to our family. Safety inside our warehouse is making sure that we have clean walkways, that we follow designated doorways, designated break areas, and designated pathways. At work, I have never been written up nor threatened to lose my job if I didn't meet the work production. I have told my supervisors multiple times that if they want me to work unsafe, that I will not do it. But that's not the reality for all workers. But it can be. I know it can be because I live it every day. All workers deserve to feel safe, and feel safety just how me and my coworkers have. All workers deserve the right to be safe at work. Thank you.
Thanks, Mom. For the record, I say no on the recall, and I support my governor, Gavin Newsom. My name is Ron Herrera, and I'm the president of the Los Angeles County Federation of Labor and vice president and proud 45-year card-carrying member of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. My first union job was that of a UPS worker. I traveled to Sacramento today in hopes that state legislators will understand the importance of having warehouse worker safety protections. Thank you to Assemblymember Gonzalez for standing with workers and pushing AB 701. And to the legislators here with us today, gracias a todos. Warehouse jobs have become some of the most dangerous jobs in the country. In fact, warehouse workers are injured more frequently than coal miners, lumberjacks, sanitation workers, and even policemen and women. For example, at Amazon, their own records show their workers were injured on the job at triple the average rate across all private sector employers in 2018. And the problem only appears to be getting worse. Even more alarming is that this is only the reported injuries. Imagine the unreported. Some injured workers are commonly sent to on-site clinics, as you've heard, and then quickly sent back to the work area. Discouraged. That's what you have here. Discouragement of workers. We're even hearing that supervisors and management people are advising them not to even report their injuries. Warehouse workers need their jobs. So they have to endure work speeds and inhumane quotas to provide for their families. We're not here to dazzle you with words. This is about worker safety. This is about lives and the future of our working families. This is about who we are as a state and whether we will continue to allow injury mills that create mass debilitation of our workforces. I stand here on the steps of the state capitol and challenge the legislators to come out and get a small glimpse, just a taste of the grueling work that warehouse workers experience on a daily basis. Come out and try to keep up with the pace of this mock conveyor belt behind me. This is only a demonstration. Can you imagine the real thing? To those warehouse workers that are here today, I respect you. The labor movement respects you. I have personally felt the impact that warehousing has had on workers' bodies. I have personally seen how injury to shoulders, neck, and back can disable a worker, and how they must live with pain and chronic injury for the rest of their lives. This bill will protect frontline warehouse workers by requiring employers to disclose quotas and pace of work standards. We must demand that these companies protect lives of workers here in California. Our ask is simple. Support and pass AB 701 and put workers before profits. Gracias.
What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now.
So thank you everybody for coming and speaking. Again, you have heard from the experts, but if you turn around, as the expression goes, sometimes actions speak louder than words. And so for anybody who wants to try to walk a mile in the shoes of a warehouse worker, please feel free to step up and see if you can keep up with the pace of work that they face on a daily basis. Thank you.
Uh-oh, another timeout task. 4 packages. 5 packages. 6 packages. Uh-oh, I think Lorena might get fired today if she doesn't hit the timeout task. Uh-oh, timeout task. Here we go, timeout task. Oh, another timeout task coming off. This is what's happening in the warehouse to 500,000 workers today. Let's see what happens. Who's gonna get fired first, everybody? Time off task, another time off task. Here we go. I see some movements that are not efficient. Time off task is real. Folks have to break their bodies to pay for the rent, pay for the food, etc. 2 minutes left. Uh-oh, I saw somebody drop a package. Claudia, you're gonna get fired today. Uh-oh, here we go. 2 minutes left, guys. Let's see if you can keep the time off task low. What do we think, guys? Are they being efficient enough today for Jeff Bezos to make another $1 billion today or not? 13 billion for Jeff Bezos today, or do we want better pay and better work conditions for our workers? What do we want, guys? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? All right, 1 minute left. 1 minute left. Don't fall off task. Oh, I saw one of those packages on the ground. You're gonna get fired, bro. You're getting fired today if you don't hurry up with this time off task. This is real pressure. You're not gonna be able to pay rent today if you fall off task again. Here we go. All right. 1 minute left on this challenge. Remember, 500,000 workers are doing this throughout California. This is the cost of free shipping. This is the cost of expedited shipping to our houses. Warehouse workers are paying with their bodies every day, day in, day out. All right? Time off task is ticking. I saw a couple infractions out here. 10 seconds. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're fired. You did this for 3 minutes. Now imagine doing this for 6 hours. Can y'all do it? All right. Does Jeff Bezos do this? What do we